Welcome to Soul Wellness with Kristen, where we get into the nitty-gritty of various holistic modalities and explore exactly how they help you heal. I'm your host, Kristen, and I invite you to join me on this enlightening expedition where we explore the connection between mind, body, and spirit. In each episode, we'll talk in depth with holistic providers, medical professionals, therapists, and healers. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge, inspire you with stories of resilience, and provide practical tools that you can integrate into your daily life. So, find a comfortable space and join us as we explore the multifaceted world of holistic wellness. Get ready to learn how to improve every aspect of your life and simply feel good. The adventure begins now. Thank you for joining us. Today I have Rachael Harris with me with Sacred Circles NC, and she is here to talk to us about all of the amazing offerings that her business provides. So welcome, Rachael.
Thank you, Kristen. You know, I've been meeting here for Sunday Circle for over a year now. It's hard to believe.
That's amazing.
And I'm so grateful to finally get to sit down and chat with you.
I am too, because I want to know details about your Sunday meetings, and people ask me about them. And so this is going to be great for me to be able to tell people more about them and exactly the structure of those meetings.
Absolutely, because as we go away from more of a structured religious setting and more into a spiritual community, it's a new territory. It's a new frontier for a lot of people. So I really appreciate being able to get my voice out here for this.
So tell me about a typical Sunday meeting.
Certainly. So at Sacred Circles NC, our Sunday meetings, well, really anything we do at Sacred Circles is about personal development being the path to enlightenment. And so we do have a very personal development focus on our meetings with a spiritual curiosity. So we feel like bring wherever you are in your spiritual path and we'll meet you there, and you will definitely leave with more than you came in with, for sure.
I love that. This is open to anyone, correct?
It is. It is. We have men and women, and we have lots of different cultural backgrounds. In fact, that's what we feel makes our experience so rich, is that we are not here to tell people how to live. We are here to offer perspectives, and what's most important is that we hold space for different perspectives, because that really, to me, is enlightenment. It's bringing light to the shadow and increasing our perspective. And we do that by being open and curious and learning about ourselves and learning about others. To me, I define humility as being teachable. And that's a big part to me about enlightenment, is remaining teachable. And that's a lot of what we talk about.
That's beautiful. Tell me about your background. How did you get into this, and what inspired you to create this kind of social gathering?
Absolutely. So it's been a journey. I mean, I was always kind of a spiritual odd kid. And I did grow up Catholic, although not deeply indoctrinated Catholic, but we did attend. And I always felt a connection with God, spirit, source. And as I was growing up, I began to take confirmation, as many Catholics do, and I was sitting in this classroom with this priest, and I'm wanting to dialogue, and I'm wanting to talk about it, and he's like, "Why are you talking?"
Oh, you were curious.
Yes, super curious and super engaged and super impassioned about spiritualism from the time I was young. And so I went home to my mom and I said, "Mom, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. It's too constrictive." And she had her own issues up against the church, and so she too was struggling with her faith. And so she was like, "All right." And so I started to branch off and study Eastern religions. But then I bumped up against one of my good friends who happened to be a Mormon, and her family, of course, jumped all over that and said, "Hey, you need to come take the discussions." And so I did, and a lot sounded really good to me. And so I ended up joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when I was 17.
Wow. So you do have a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah, and that, I think there were a lot of reasons for that. I can look back and say there were needs that I think I needed to be met as a child, and I can also see where, in many ways, God led me to that point in my life, or source, whatever you want to say, in order to learn, because I learned a great deal about myself, within the Mormon Church, because I quickly, with that vigor that I have for spiritualism, quickly got into leadership and stayed in leadership for the better part of 20 years.
Okay.
And so I have the better part of 20 years of teaching people from children to adults, groups as small as 2 people to groups as large as 200. And so I am so thankful for that opportunity to learn and develop my teaching skills during that time with kind of the arm rails of the church. However, when you are a spiritually curious person, eventually you grow out of any box.
Right.
And so I started hitting up against these walls. And it was like, oh no,
Just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I started to see things that... And in Mormonism, we say, put it on the shelf, put it on... Well, there's only so many things you can put on the shelf.
True.
Until that shelf becomes very, very heavy and begins to break. And so when my husband at the time and our family was living in Shenzhen, China, I was the highest that you could go as a woman in the local leadership. And things began to really, really shift. And so I began to shift my teaching to be less me speaking and more discussion driven. And I learned a great deal in that every person in the room carries a great deal of wisdom in their heart. And when you ask really good questions and then you shut up
and you listen,
yeah, and you guide and you keep people kind of in a parameter, that it ends up creating something so much deeper than any lecture ever could.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the people that I taught grew in friendship, and they really started to have greater empathy for themselves and others. There started to be less mask wearing, and these relationships just got really, really deep. And so fast forward, leaving the church, going through having to take off a lot of that religious stuff.
Was that hard?
It was super hard.
Yeah.
It was super painful. And then coming back to, nope, I've always had this thing in me that drives me towards understanding that there's something greater beyond myself. Now I'm happy and comfortable to say, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And being at peace in that place, but knowing that it is, or that I hope that it is. And so then bringing those skills here to what I do with Sacred Circles, not just our Sunday circle, where it is kind of a more general, although I will bring curious questions, I will bring sometimes worksheets for us to do. It's very, come and be prepared to work.
So it sounds very interactive.
It's very interactive. And if that's something that's uncomfortable, you kind of can sit back and observe as well. We kind of leave space for that.
Not putting anybody on the spot.
Sure. No, I definitely don't do that. And really, we want to create soul friendships. We want people to come and expand their self-awareness and their knowledge. And we really want to fuel that spiritual growth and inspiration. That's really what our goal is. In the Sunday circle, the large circles, we also have smaller circles, more intimate circles. I run something called Trust Love Circle. The Trust Circle comes from... It's a psychological tool that was developed, I can't remember by whom, pardon me. But those are smaller groups, they're consistent, they max out at 5 people. Consistency is key with those, so it's the same 5 people and high levels of confidentiality. And then I also do mentorship with people. I have a 90 days of change because I do also have a mental health background. And so it takes 90 days to change that brain. And so it's very structured. And also a spiritual pathways program and workshops and retreats. I love to teach.
Yeah.
Teaching is really what lights me up, and seeing people learn more about themselves, and while also developing a greater relationship with others.
I didn't know you had the mental health background.
I do. I was a psychology major by accident because I just loved mental health so much that I ended up, they were like, what are you philosophy and psychology, what are we going to do with this woman? So they're like, well, you can actually graduate on time if you're a psych major. And I'm like, okay. So that's how I got into that. And then I did stay home with my daughter after I graduated. And then we can talk about this in a little bit, but in 2020, I had just a lot happen and had to kind of get my stuff back together. And so I did go to school as a life coach. I have my CLC, my spiritual life coach certification, and I did a class on relationship coaching. I went to Life Purpose Institute, which takes it very seriously. Fergan Gordon is the founder of that institute, and she is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she developed her coaching program before coaching was even a thing.
Okay.
Which is really cool. So she takes what she does very seriously, and it was a great school to be a part of. And then I'm also a minister, an ordained minister, because that's really what I love. And I'm sound healer. I got a lot of stuff, and I do Havening technique, which is a biofeedback similar to EMDR.
Okay.
So I kind of like to lump everything that I love to do into saying I'm a spiritual minister who teaches personal development.
But you see clients one-on-one.
I do.
And
yes.
they've got, it sounds like a whole menu of things to choose from with you.
Absolutely. There are many circles within sacred circles.
I love it.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I didn't know that you had lived in China.
I did. Yes, that was an adventure. My ex-husband is an airline pilot, and after going through a lot of ups and downs he got into his career in 2007, right before, if y'all remember, 2008, not a great time.
Yeah.
So things just didn't go according to the plan. Mm-hmm. Like I know it didn't do for a lot of people. And so at some point we were like, what are we going to do? And he got offered this job. And so we're like, all right, move to China. And it was an amazing experience. And it was so good for us as a family. And while I was there in 2019, I had what I now understand is a massive Kundalini awakening. I had no idea what that was. And it just blew everything to pieces.
Did a certain event kind of spawn that, or can you pin it on anything?
Yeah, there were some things. It's kind of a little private, personal, but there was just this moment that I realized I had been living in like black and white television, and then it was like boom, 3D, and it was like, do you see the sky? Do you hear the birds? Oh no. And I realized the lack of integrity that I had in my life as far as living for myself, that I was living completely for everybody else.
Everyone else.
That I was a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the most pleasurable and painful time of my life. Both of those extremes existed at the same time. Sometimes I felt like I was being ripped apart. And it also was a time when these inconsistencies within the church became too painful to see. And I started to really fight against a lot of the misogyny that I started to see, and the unfairness and the repression of women in particular. And, you kind of start hitting against the wall. And so in December of 2019, I really had gotten to kind of a dark place, because I had seen how I was not living in integrity with myself and my light and my truth, but I did not see how to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I was just laying on my floor like, I don't even care if I live anymore, because I don't know how to get out of this dark place. And I remember this, voice coming to me and was like, just hang on, your mom and your grandma have this all under control. And I was like, I don't know what that means. But I got off the floor and kept going with life. Well, we all know what January of 2020 brought.
Yeah.
So we were in China, in Shenzhen, during COVID starting. And so that was an adventure in and of itself, which could be an entire podcast. And March 9th of 2020, I wake up, well, technically March 10th, because we're 12 hours ahead. Mm-hmm. And my phone is like blowing up. I'm like, what is going on? And all these messages, Rachel, call us, Rachel, call us, Rachel, call us. And I found that my mom had unexpectedly passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was not on the docket. That was not on the plan. And so I knew I needed to leave immediately. At the time, in order to get out of quarantine to come back into China, you had to be gone for 2 weeks. So I was like, no problem. I'm going to go back to the States for 2 weeks, it's just me and my brother, so I was the executive, and I was like, I will take care of all this, and I'll be home in 2 weeks. And I kissed my 4 children, ages, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Maybe a year up from that, I start to lose track. My young children on the head, and I went to America, and I did not return, and the borders closed, and I did not see my kids for 2.5 years.
Rachel.
Yeah, and that was...
I cannot believe that. I can't even imagine how painful that was.
Everything that I thought that I was, everything that I thought who I was, these roles that I had, disappeared. I was not mom in the same way. I was not wife. I was not daughter. I was not Relief Society president. I was not PTO president. I was not expat. I was alone in this house with my mom's ashes in my hands, understanding that everything that I had built my life on was outside of myself. And so that was the beginning of a very deep and meaningful journey of self-discovery. And all of that I've learned and gone through is what I put into what I teach, because when you do not build yourself from the inside out, it will fall at some point. Yes. Maybe not all at once. I mean, I don't wish what I went through on my worst enemy, because it was excruciating.
Yeah.
And those things will fall away. And so when we begin to build ourselves from the inside out, we are so much more strong to withstand the sandpaper of life. It's actually going to be my discussion at Sunday Circle. We're going to talk about our egos and what does that mean, and why is it important to have a healthy sense of self, because you have to have that solid core to withstand the things that come. I often say I had built the most beautiful glass castle, and it just shattered. It just came tumbling down. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's that.
What a story, what an incredible story, but you can kind of see now why it happened for
Absolutely.
Your growth.
And why it had to be the way that it did.
It was brutal.
It was so brutal.
But it changed you majorly.
And I was so enmeshed that it took me those 2.5 years to be strong enough through not just professional services like counseling and coaching and body work and breath work and learning all of these things, but also learning to meditate, learning to rebuild my relationship with Source, because that too disappeared. And I was like, well, what's real, and what was me, and what was the church? And I had to go through that and figure that out, and learn to just sit, be alone, be in my grief, go into the darkness, and really figure out where did I leave off that 17-year-old girl? And pick her up and dust her off and grow her up and reinfuse her with love and figure out, where do I want to go from here, and who do I want to be? So it was excruciating, it was grief-filled, it was awful, and yet it was the way that has brought me to where I am. So yeah, would I want to do it again? Oh, heck no.
No.
Heck no. But
No.
do I regret it? No, because it's made me who I am. So
Yeah.
both things are true.
Oh, this is so fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah. I don't talk about it a lot anymore. So yeah, I'm grateful to be able to share it when it comes up, because it's a really cool story.
I just feel like you have so much to draw from your experiences for your Sunday circles. I've always been curious about your Sunday circles, partly because you're having them here at Soul Wellness, and I see you coming in and out, and but I haven't actually joined one, and now I'm super curious.
Yeah.
What size group typically do you have?
Generally, we have about 12 people. That's been our pretty consistent group. We have probably another dozen that kind of filter in and out. But we have a pretty solid group of people that come every second and fourth Sunday at 10.
So you have one coming this Sunday.
We do. And I always plan, so the way that I teach is I create a topic and then I create a container, and then we let the group flow within the container, because I have found through, again, lots of hours of teaching, that this is an effective way to both teach and learn at the same time for all of us. We all have the opportunity to teach and learn within that container. And so I do post our topics on my Facebook group, Sacred Circles NC. So you can always go there, what's the topic, and then I'll post questions to start getting you thinking before you come, so that you're not, showing up like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah.
You have some background, and to get you thinking. And even if people aren't sure about coming but want to just have some pretty thought-provoking questions, they're still welcome to jet over to that page and check out the questions that we post.
Okay.
Because they'll get you. Ponder them a little bit and you'll learn something, I promise.
Oh, I love that. Tell me about some other events, and I know you've got a retreat coming up, so let's talk about that too.
Absolutely. On the 5th Sunday, June 29th, I have a workshop and retreat at Starrett Farm, which is a private retreat center, and it is going to be on the 5 pillars of purpose.
Where is that?
That's in Statesville.
Okay.
So it's beautiful. They've got this gorgeous main building and just the most spectacular grounds. And I've done personal classes up there that I'm doing for my own growth and edification. Even though I'm not a Christian anymore, I don't identify as a Christian, I feel like I can still gain a lot of wisdom for some of the things that they offered. So it is owned by the Methodist Church, but they're pretty liberal and pretty progressive.
Okay.
And so I appreciate their allowing me to be there, which is also a privilege. But it's going to be on the 5 pillars of purpose. And this came about not only based on all the things that I've just told you of my own process of learning how to build myself from the inside out, but also the Sunday circles, because as I've gone and introduced this topic of purpose, I pulled up, oh yeah, that's important. Oh yeah, that's important. Oh yeah, that's important. And so other people were able to reflect back to me, and I went home and I was like, my gosh, there's really like 5 really important pillars. And when I say purpose, I am not necessarily talking about what you're supposed to go do. I'm talking about, who are you here to be? What are you here to create? Because there is something unique about you that you bring that nobody else can bring. And so the 5 pillars are your essential gifts. So the essential gifts are, who are you? Like, what are you here to do? Or what are you here to give? From love to leadership, these are things that nobody can take from you. These are not roles. The second one is fears. Like, we always have to be mindful of our fears because they'll get in our way. So how do we deal with that? And then self-trust and worth, what is inspired action, and then the power to pivot. So those are the 5 pillars, and it's going to be all day from 10 to 5:30, and it includes lunch. They can find out more at sacredcirclesnc.com/purpose if they want. It's going to be amazing. And I think I have 6 more tickets. It is limited, but I have a whole workbook, which actually I gave to you to check out as well, that people are going to be able to take home, because it is going to be lots. It's going to be drinking from a fire hose, but that's why I put together the workbook, so you can bring home and keep going back to it. And even for those who feel like, I'm living my purpose, this is a really great foundation to go back to, because the only thing that we can predict in life is that things will change. That's it.
Exactly right.
Change is the only constant.
It's the only constant. I'm famous for saying it.
Yeah. So that's everything that I do is meant for people to be able to come back to and keep learning, because I don't believe that we ever get there.
Yeah.
We don't ever get there. We just keep
I agree.
growing.
And if you think you are there, you're going to get thrown a curveball. I guarantee.
Guaranteed. Absolutely.
It's coming.
It's coming. And I have been there. I have been that person that's like, I capital K no. And now I'm like, would you like some more shoe leather with that?
Somebody help me get my foot out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's stuck.
Oh, that's so funny. What else? What else do you want to talk about?
Let's see. Well, I am opening up another Trust Love Circle that's coming up probably at the end of the summer. I have 3 more spaces in that group of 5. So people can contact me if that sounds like something they'd be interested in. I do offer sound baths on the first Sunday. I also do sound bath and other collaborations. We do that here in other places with Tricia Clifford. And I do offer one-on-one mentoring. The 90 Days of Change is something where we can bring spiritualism into it or not, just depends on what you're looking for.
Okay.
But if you feel like you need to change something, but you're not really sure what, 90 Days of Change really focuses on one thing, because our brains are such incredible machines,
right,
and they're stubborn as heck. And so we focus on one obstacle that you have that is likely affecting every point of your life. And the 90 days, I came up with this. First, we're going to work on mindset. A lot of coaching works on mindset, but they end there. So then we're going to go into action. So how do we take that mindset and bring it into action? Because you can change your mindset, but if you don't change your actions, then what's the point?
Nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the third month is all about staying the course, because again, we can get really motivated to make changes and we can do it, and then we hit resistance. And that is where the rubber really meets the road, and that is where the change is starting to really break down into our neural networks and really starting to change our brain. And so that process really does take 90 days. So that's about it, that one. And then I also offer spiritual pathways, which is more about creating your own personal spirituality.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have to look like anything. It can look like whatever you want. But if you're like, man, I've left organized religion and I still believe in source, but I don't know what that means, and what does it mean to be spiritually autonomous? I think a lot of us sometimes wonder that. And even in spiritualism, we can often give away our authority to tarot cards or to astrology or just things that are outside of ourselves. So how do we stick to ourselves and then view everything as tools that add to the game, if you will, but don't replace it? And then I also do personal sound baths and personal sound healings. I offer something called vibrational attunement and spirit readings, where we look at the energy field. I use tuning forks and Tibetan sound bowls, and we look for pockets that are stuck or lack of flow. And when I'm in that place and in that process, sometimes I will hear guidance or I will feel inspired to say things, but it's not mediumship. It's just when we're aligned with spirit, things start to flow through. And so it's about, what do you need to hear now? And one of the biggest pitfalls that I see is people want to know 10 steps down the road, what am I supposed to do? And really, right now, what you're going through, there's a lesson that you're being taught. And so facing that lesson and becoming more aware and perceptive about what you're in right now will help you get to where you want to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And faster.
And faster. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Oh, I love this. Tell everybody how to start. What's a good starting point with you if they're interested in what they're hearing?
Sure. The best way, I think, is to come to a Sunday circle here at Soul Wellness, because that's going to give you a taste of who I am and also the people who are involved and what we are doing. I mean, I love the people that come to Sunday. I'll leave every Sunday like, wow, these people are incredible. Like, I really just feel like we draw a lot of very self-aware and spiritually minded people. Also, you don't have to necessarily be spiritually minded. We do have some couples where like the wife is very into the woo and the guy's just like, I don't know, but he benefits from the self-development. So it's a low-cost option to come in and just get a taste of what Sacred Circles is. And of course, the website, sacredcirclesnc.com, I've put a lot of effort into that to try to answer any questions. And of course, people can email me directly as well.
Your contact information is on that website, so that's the best way to find you?
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, definitely come to a Sunday circle. Just come, try it out. I think you'll come with a question, come curious, and you're gonna leave. That's something that I learned as a Mormon, actually, was that when I came to whatever it is with a question in my heart, and I went into a spiritual or a learning environment and I stayed open, Spirit will teach you. And what's beautiful is it doesn't matter so much what comes out of my mouth or your mouth. You will hear what you need to hear. And that's the magic. That's the magic that we can't explain, but that's where it is.
It is. And I love anything thought-provoking. I like to be able to listen to someone and then I'm going to think about that throughout the week at different times, like, and really contemplate. I love something that makes me think.
Absolutely. And the most beautiful part about that is then you're going to get what you need. You're not relying on me to tell you how you should live or what you should think. It's staying open and curious and giving just enough knowledge to open a perspective, but then allow your personal guidance to take you where you need to go.
Beautiful. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to come sit with me and tell me all about yourself.
Absolutely. And thank you, Kristen, for having Soul Wellness. To be able to have this beautiful environment to meet in, it definitely adds to, I know what I'm doing, and I always appreciate being here.
Oh, thank you. This place is my heart. It's my heart and my soul.
It's so special. It is.
It is. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for joining us on another enriching episode of Soul Wellness with Kristen. We hope the insights shared today have resonated with you, inspiring a deeper connection to your own journey towards holistic well-being. If you enjoyed today's episode, we invite you to subscribe, share, and reach out. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring you meaningful content that educates, empowers, and uplifts. Remember, you are a vital part of this community, and together we're creating a ripple effect of positive change.